Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. We talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Roast Jeffrey, and subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. We just passed 320 subs. Thank you guys from the bottom of my heart, and I hope I can continue to make great content you guys will enjoy in the future. Now, there's a big Big 12 battle on Big Monday in college basketball with the Texas Longhorns traveling to the Kansas Jayhawks. Who do I think is going to win this game? Let's break it down. Now, Texas is 18-4 and 7-2 in the Big 12 this season, and they are actually atop the Big 12 standings right now. And Rodney Terry, he's the interim head coach for the Longhorns, and he's had to fill in for Chris Beard, who got fired last month. And he's actually done a pretty solid job keeping Texas in order and still having them play good basketball. And Texas has had a great season overall. And they lost to Illinois 85-78 when Chris Beard was still the head coach, and that was a tough loss. And then they lost to Kansas State 116-103. That was a tough loss as well. Both are really solid teams. But then Texas was able to beat TCU 79-75, and that was a great win for Rodney Terry. It was one of the first games that he was the full-time interim head coach, and that was a great performance there against the Horned Frogs. And then Texas got a big win on the road at West Virginia 69-61, and that was coming off a tough loss to Iowa State 78-67, so Texas really needed that win. Then Texas lost at Tennessee 82-71, and that was a game that Texas really struggled in. They could not get the win over the team that has their former head coach in Rick Barnes. And then Texas was able to beat Baylor 76-71, and that was a huge win for Texas as well because Baylor's playing great basketball this year, and Texas for now is number one in the Big 12. And Marcus Carr is a big reason why. The Minnesota transfer is averaging 16.7 points per game, 3 rebounds per game, and 4 assists per game. He's a solid player. He does a lot of things well for Texas. He is definitely capable of putting up 30 points in a game, and he rebounds the ball at a fairly high level for a guard, and he's a pretty good passer. Sir'Jabari Rice is averaging 11 points per game, 3.4 rebounds per game, and 2.1 assists per game. He stepped up this year, and he's playing much better basketball for Texas. Timmy Allen, the Utah transfer, is averaging 10.8 points per game, 5.2 rebounds per game, and 3.5 assists per game. He has a game similar to Marcus Carr, but obviously he doesn't put up as many points, but he's still been really solid this year. Tyrese Hunter, the Iowa State transfer, is averaging 10.3 points per game, 3.5 rebounds per game, and 3 assists per game. Tyrese Hunter's having a good season for Texas, but he hasn't taken the leap forward that a lot of people were expecting after he transferred from Iowa State. He had a great freshman year at the Cyclones, but this year he has not played as well, but he's still a really solid player. And Dylan D'Souza averaging 7 points per game, 3.5 rebounds per game, and 1 assist per game. And overall, Texas has a really talented team, and Rodney Terry's done a fantastic job having his players play well this season. In Texas this year, scoring 79.9 points per game, and on defense, they're only allowing 67.7 points per game. That is a really good recipe for success, and that's why Texas is playing high-level basketball this year. When you're scoring 80 points per game and you're giving up less than 70 points per game, it is very tough for teams to beat you, but obviously going on the road at Kansas is going to be a tall order. But if Texas plays as well as they have been playing, they have a really good chance to win. Now, on the Kansas side, they're 18-4 and 6-3 in the Big 12 this season. And the Hall of Fame coach, Bill Self, he has had a fantastic tenure as the Kansas head coach. For a stretch, Kansas was unbeatable in the Big 12. They were always winning the Big 12 conference, but now they have much more competition with Baylor and Texas and other teams playing at a high level in the Big 12. But Kansas is still one of the best teams in the conference, and they're only one game behind Texas right now, and they have a really good shot to retake the lead in the Big 12 conference if they can start stringing some wins together toward the end of the season. And Kansas beat Duke early on in the season, 69-64, and that was a really good win. But then Kansas lost to Tennessee 64-50, and that was a very bad performance for Kansas. Even though Tennessee's been a really solid team this year, it's very unusual for Kansas to only score 50 points in a game. But then they got a big win over Indiana at home, 84-62. Indiana's been a really solid team in the Big Ten this year, and Kansas beat them pretty soundly. Then Kansas beat Iowa State 62-60, and that was a good win as well. Iowa State's been one of the better Big 12 teams this year, and Kansas was able to pull out a win at home. But then Kansas lost at their rivals Kansas State 83-82 in overtime. That was a great game that Kansas just fell short in. And then Kansas lost to TCU 83-60 at home, and that was a really tough loss as well. But Kansas has since bounced back and won at Kentucky, and they beat Kansas State at home. So Kansas is playing really good basketball right now, and if they play at a high level, they'll have a great chance to beat Texas. And Jalen Wilson has been a bucket getter for the Jayhawks this year. He's averaging 21.3 points per game, 8.5 rebounds per game, and 2.5 assists per game. He does it all for Kansas, and he's one of the best players in college basketball this this year. He's also one of the most improved players in college basketball from a year ago. He was a solid player last year, but now he's by far their best player, and he has a really good shot to be a first-round draft pick. And Grady Dick's averaging 14.5 points per game, 5.2 rebounds per game, and 1.7 assists per game. He's a fantastic freshman for Kansas. He's probably going to be a first-round draft pick as well, and he's a fantastic three-point shooter. He's shooting 42% from three this year. He has been in a bit of a shooting slump the last few games, but Grady Dick's still a fantastic player. Kevin McCullough is averaging 10.7 points per game, 7.8 rebounds per game, and 2.1 assists per game. He transferred from Texas Tech, and he's been really solid for Kansas. He's also really good at defense. Even when he doesn't score a lot of points in games, his defense really helps out Kansas. KJ Adams is averaging 10.5 points per game, 4.2 rebounds per game, and 2 assists per game. He's been a much improved player for Kansas this year. He was a decent player last year, but he's gotten a lot better. And DeJuan Harris is averaging 7.7 points per game, 2.1 rebounds per game, and 6.3 assists per game. DeJuan Harris does not score a lot of points, but he's one of the best passing point guards in college basketball, and he definitely runs the show for the Kansas Jayhawks. And Bill Self is a really talented team, and he's done a great job developing a lot of his players and helping the players that were on his roster last year improve from a year ago. And Kansas on offense this year is averaging 76.6 points per game, and on defense they're giving up 68 points per game. Kansas is usually a bit of a better offensive team than they are this year. They're still really solid on offense, but they do rely heavily on Jalen Wilson to score points for them, and that has been kind of tough on the Jayhawks this year. They're still a great offensive team, but if they can get more production from Grady Dick and KJ Adams and Kevin McCullough, then Kansas's offense will be just fine. On the defensive side of the ball, Kansas has stepped up their defense the past few games. They were struggling for a bit at the beginning of Big 12 play on defense, but they still have a really solid team on defense. Kevin McCullough has definitely helped in that regard, and if Kansas can defend at a high level, it will really help them down the stretch of the season in the Big 12 Conference. Now, who do I think is going to win this Big 12 battle? Texas is a team that's been playing much better basketball as of late. Rodney Terry's done a fantastic job keeping the roster together and having them play at a high level, even without having Chris Beard at head coach. And Texas is capable of putting up a lot of points. TCU was able to win at Kansas because TCU had guards like Mike Miles and Damian Ball who could score a lot of points, and they were able to get that road win over Kansas. And Texas has players like Marcus Carr and Timmy Allen and Tyrese Hunter who are capable of putting up 25, 30 points in a game. And if a couple of players for Texas get hot in this game and are able to hit a lot of threes, then I can definitely see Kansas losing this game. But Kansas is on a mission. They want to retake the lead in the Big 12 Conference. Texas has it for now, and Kansas is not going to want to give up that lead in the Big 12. Bill Self, he's a Hall of Fame coach. He's fantastic at getting his players ready for big games. Kansas has been playing better basketball as of late. They've been defending at a higher level than they were a few weeks ago, and I think this game's going to be really close down the wire, but I'm going to go with Kansas to beat Texas 69-67 in this big Big 12 battle. Again, I think Texas can win this game. They have a team that has a lot of offensive punch, and I think that they're going to be able to have a potential shot to go into Allen Fieldhouse and be able to put up a lot of threes and be able to get this win. And I think that they will have some success in that regard. And I think that Texas's defense actually has been stepping up as well. Earlier this season, Texas was struggling on defense, like when they gave up 116 points to Kansas State. But they have been playing better on defense as well. But Texas is a better team at home, and they have been able to win on the road this year. They have shown the capability of doing that. But I still think they're a team that is a bit inconsistent on the road, and they're a much better home team. And Allen Fieldhouse is one of the toughest places to play in college basketball. It's going to be a sold-out crowd. Bill Self's going to have his team ready for this game, and Kansas is going to want to do everything they possibly can to retake the Big 12 lead. And I think that Jalen Wilson will have a big game, and if he can get good contribution from Grady Dick and Kevin McCullough and KJ Adams, then I think that Kansas will have a really good shot to win this game. I think it's going to go down the wire, but I'm going to go with the Kansas Jayhawks to beat the Texas Longhorns 69-67 in this big Big 12 battle. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Comment down below whether you think Kansas or Texas is going to win this basketball game and why. And I will see you next time.